So far, we've taken our categories, our articles, our menus, our menu modules, and we've converted these all over to English and French. One of the last things we need to do to split this website into the two languages is to take a look at our template as well. Recall that on the homepage of our website, we have some words on here that are in English, like the name of the site and its tagline. We may want to have French versions of that as well. And it is possible to use template styles to have our French version of the template as well as the English version. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. Under Extensions, Template Manager, you'll see that we currently have two front-end templates that are in use, the Samoka Default and the Samoka Volunteer page. So what we're going to do is we're going to make 2 copies of the Samoka Default, and we're going to make 2 copies of the Volunteer page, and then we're going to set of those copies, one to English and one to French in both the cases. So we'll start with the Samoka Default. I'll go ahead and put a check mark next to it and say Duplicate. And then I'm going to repeat that process again, a check mark next to Default and click Duplicate. So we now have here for our Samoka Default 2, I'm going to change the name to Samoka English Default. And I'm going to set this to the English default for the website. And I'm going to go ahead and leave everything else the same because this is fine. The translations are already in place here for the site title and description. Go ahead and say Save and Close. And as we saw with the menus, you'll see that the English default template style also has an English flag here inside of our Style Manager. I'm going to go to my other copy, Samoka Default 3, and I'm going to change it to Samoka French Default. And I am going to set this as the default for the French site. I also need to change my translation over here on the right side of the screen. I've given that to you as a document here, French Template Styles. So the site title, we can go ahead and highlight, Control Command C to copy, Control Command V to paste. Then go ahead and copy the tagline, Control Command C to copy, Control Command V to paste. Okay. So that's all set. Go ahead and say Save and Close. So now you see that we have default pages for our English and our French, as well as the overall default for the language equals all. Now for the volunteer page, we're going to have to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to put a check mark next to the volunteer page and duplicate. And then a check mark again next to the volunteer page and duplicate. And so I'm going to go into the template style for the volunteer page and change this to the English volunteer page. I don't need to change anything else because this is already translated. Go ahead and say Save and Close. And then in my other copy of the volunteer page, I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to change this to the French volunteer page. And I am going to change, once again, the site title and the site description. So my site title, once again, go ahead and highlight this, Control Command C to copy, Control Command V to paste. And then our tagline for the volunteer page is this one here, Control Command C to copy, and Control Command V to paste. So there we go. And this should be assigned to the Volunteer with Us page on the French menu. So this one right here. So now we can go ahead and say Save and Close. And you'll see that we have our French volunteer page is not the default page for the site because nothing is selected in the default column. That's totally okay because we have a French default template style. It's specified up here. Same for the English, although I forgot to assign that to the volunteer page. So let me go back into the English volunteer page, and I will assign that to the Volunteer with Us English page. Save and Close. And we still have the style left over here for the generic volunteer page, and nothing is assigned to it currently. That was our original volunteer page template style. I'm just going to leave that in place. So you should, in the end, have a default page, which is ultimately the one that will work with language equals all. Your 2 home pages for English and French, and you should have 2 English and French volunteer pages, as well as a generic volunteer page with nothing assigned. If your template styles look like mine, then we're all set and we're ready to move on to the next task.